What if the thing you've been told is your biggest weakness is actually the reason you are creative and the reason you could be successful?
That is the advantage of dyslexia. That's where a lot more creative stuff happens. Especially, I'm oversimplifying really advanced neuroscience, but that's essentially grad school. This is simply K through college. Okay? So, what happened is he called on me and he crushed everybody else. He would call on you, ask you questions you didn't know, and crush you and embarrass the heck out of you until you eventually adapted. It's called the Socratic method.
Creative brains don't thrive in linear systems like school or corporate jobs, but they thrive in creative markets. The markets that actually pay for originality.
Okay, well, let's go and see if we can diagnose you. What is your speciality? What is your area of extreme interest and ability?
Uh, it depends because it changes.
No, but just give me one that you're really interested.
Writing
you're really good at.
is one of my specialities,
Okay.
and finance. Writing and finance, I would say those two are pretty high on the scale for me.
Okay, so let's look at finance. When you're thinking about finance, do you have ideas flying around your head at light speed but with little to no organization? Does that sound familiar or any time in your past?
Definitely in the past. I'm more focused now, and kind of my thing is I get so laser focused. I get almost tunnel visioned, where if I start focusing on something, I can't see outside of anything else. People can be shouting in my ear, I won't even hear them, but like I can drill down on a nuance to the point where I understand that perfectly.
So what we do with most individuals with what you're talking about, who haven't figured that out, we don't ask them a question like, what affected Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech have on the American Civil Rights Movement? Think back to when you were scatterbrained.
Right.
Can you see how you're like, I don't even know where to begin with this?
Yeah.
Now, if you asked a specific to a general question, what personally compelled Martin Luther King to want to give his famous speech? You know what to do. You go to his biography and you find out.
Yeah.
Then that answer will give you another question, which you answer, which gives you another question, which you answer. So what that does is it forces your brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. And what I've found is that there was a pattern. I'm going to give you an example. You want to talk about creative. Professor James Holmes, he was interviewed by the second leading economist of the 20th century. He got the top scholarship at the University of Chicago, which for decades has been the top economic program on the planet. Normally 4 to 6 Nobel laureates on staff at any given time. He became one of the top percent of lecturing professors in the world in economics. Now, how do you think he did in high school?
I would imagine where the conversation is going, he probably did pretty poorly.
He didn't learn to read until 5th grade. He was a predominantly D student. They just socially passed him. And he had no chance of going to college until he entered a science competition, won the state of Indiana, and then got third in the country. This was back in the 50s when this mattered. Then he went on to college with seven majors, ended up with 3. They wouldn't let him get a degree in English because he would embarrass him. He stopped counting his rewrites for his dissertation at 100. So when you're looking, so what happens when we go to grad school? What's going on? What I found is that it's hyper-focused, very narrowly focused in our speciality, our area of extreme interest and ability. So if you're dyslexic or ADD or ADHD, because it's all about the same, ADD and ADHDs count here. You have to be in your speciality. So what is your area of extreme interest and ability? You have to find that out and develop the heck out of it and stay in that micro lane. You step out of that, you're going to see that your abilities go down like 50-80%. You have to stay in that narrow lane. Now, the other thing that people run into, they say, well, I can't read, I can't write. And I'm going to say, well, the problem you're running into isn't reading or writing. Dyslexics are actually, once properly trained, superior readers than most gen ed people. All right, I'll get to that a bit later, but what is dyslexia? Well, I'm going to show you what not every problem, but if you go after the biggest elephant in the room problem, you solve that. The rest of them are so much easier to solve. I'm going back to the science. That front part of the brain,
Right.
all that neural activity.
Uh-huh.
If you ask a dyslexic student in their speciality, do you have ideas flying around your head at light speed, but with little to no organization, they're going to say yes.
A lot of creatives might think that chaos is a flaw, though it's not. It's maybe raw material. The problem isn't creativity, it's structure. If you can organize your chaos, you might be able to monetize it.
I had a kid, her name was Casey. Just so everybody knows, I never saw this before. I will never see this again. This was a one-off. So Casey was 10. She turned 11 over the summer near the end of 5th grade. She had a 2nd grade reading level. And this does have to do with creativity. So when I asked her, okay, I do writing first, then reading, she said, no, I'm doing reading first. And I said, couldn't talk her out of it. I gave her the process, and I told her mom, 10, 20-minute sessions, have her work them on her at night. You pick the time. I didn't know Casey. She did 2 to 3 hours a night. Her mom knew nothing for 6 months. Okay, most of the day during the summertime. 6 months later, she's in 6th grade, 11 now. Her friends come over, take her book in silent reading. This is what I assigned her. All 900 pages of it. All right, so she went over that, and this is a 10th grade material. She knew every word in that book, knew every definition of every word in that book. 6 months later, she's reading at the 10th grade level. 8th grade levels
wow.
in 6 months. I worked with her for 15 minutes a week.
This is why creatives stay broke. They try to do everything. Your brain is built for mastery, not generalization. Specialization is the antidote to the starving artist myth.
Now, when you want to talk creative, I'm going to show you who is arguably the most creative guy of the 20th century.
Please. I've got
Ever
that
hear
book
of
on
this
my
guy?
shelf. I've got it on my shelf.
Okay, so have you read this?
I have read that.
Okay. All 1,000 pages of it. Okay. So I taught his biography all the time because dyslexics, people think Walt was dyslexic. We don't have knowledge, like we know with Steven Spielberg, he is dyslexic.
Right.
He admitted it when he was like 62 or something.
Uh-huh.
So with Walt, have you been to Disney World or Disneyland?
Been to Disneyland, yeah.
You walk into Main Street, USA. Do you feel the Disney magic? Well, just so everybody knows, I'm just going to switch. I'm just going to go to chapter 1, if I can. And you can tell me what the first universal theme is. Escape.
Escape. Yep.
Right. Now, that's easy. That's chapter 1. But to figure out what the rest of it is, I'd have students go through a writing to read process.
Uh-huh.
And the second one, which I have never divulged on the 150 plus podcasts I've been on, but this is a creative one. The second one is control, but not your control. It's Walt's control. He's
Right.
giving adults. He said he didn't make Disneyland and didn't plan out the Magic Kingdom for kids. It's for adults. When you go into Marceline, Missouri, so when you go into Main Street USA, that's from Marceline, Missouri, where he was between 5 and 10. He spent his entire life trying to recapture that. Remember that section?
It's been over 20 years since I've read the book. I don't remember.
Okay. So that's his hometown, and I will give that kid that section to a kid with a 2nd grade reading level, and say you have to read that yourself until you can just read it, and that's at that section's at the 9th to 10th grade level, and they will literally go through that chapter with the audiobook dozens and dozens of times until they can read every word. They know every word. And then they eventually find control. And the parents can never find it. So what we're talking about when we're talking about the creativity is when you go to Disney World, you're going in there to escape reality.
Right.
But the main universal theme is the control of Walt and how he wants you to perceive, how he wants you to feel. To give you an example, there's another extension to that, to Steven Spielberg's. Have you ever watched Saving Private Ryan?
I have.
Okay, that when they land at the Utah beach. Okay, that 20, I think it's 22 minutes. Steven Spielberg draws you in. He forces you to see the world the way that he wants to see it. He doesn't give you a choice. And he's famous for that is in his directing style, especially with really powerful scenes from Schindler's List. This is his creative way of saying, you have no choice. You're entering my world. You will see things and think of things the way I want you to. And that's exactly what Walt did.
Creatives who earn the most are the ones who control the emotional experience. Emotion is the most valuable currency in the creative economy.
Now, if you asked to a general question, what personally compelled Martin Luther King to want to give his famous speech, you know what to do. You go to his biography and you find out.
Yeah.
Then that answer will give you another question, which you answer, which gives you another question, which you answer. So what that does is it forces your brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output.
Right.
Okay? Now, so when you're talking about being a ADD or dyslexia, that's the key thing. And then we do word analysis followed by articulation. But for what you're going through, you answer that question, which pretty much says ADD, ADHD, or mildly dyslexic. I'm going to ask you the next question. It may not be now, and it could have been 20 years ago.
Right.
But I want you to think you were thinking about finance or something else back then that you were really, really interested in. Fingers, keyboard. Fingers, keyboard. The idea's in your head. You take the fingers, put it on your keyboard. Did the idea ever fly out of your head, leaving you with an empty brain?
Creatives lose money because they start too big. They get overwhelmed into a type of paralysis. Don't let this trap catch you, because really, in the end, finished projects are really the only ones that pay.
It's a drastically better writer. I was using the pro version of ChatGPT just for really deep thinking, but then they came out with 5.1, and I'm done doing my PhD stuff for a while. So I just use that because it's only about 10% better. So so I'm actually writing a book now. So just so people understand the creative process of how I'm dyslexic with a first grade reading and writing level, doing the book. So what I did is I drafted it out with Anthropic, Sonnet 4.5, and I went back and forth with ChatGPT Pro just to have it review it, and you'd have to have it corrected like at least half a dozen times before it's past 90%. Then I took it and I thought I had something great. Nope. I hired a ghostwriter. I went to Fiverr. I was looking for a Fiverr Pro. Those are their best people.
Sure.
And or at least level 2. These are people, but I wanted somebody affordable, which I found. And then I sent it to a PhD, essentially a medical doctor, med student, whatever, in Pakistan. Brilliant. She gave it back to me in ways I didn't even notice. Then I sent it over to a mom who's in South Carolina. And she redid it. I never even recognized it when it came back. The AI stuff was completely gone.
Yeah, because the AI can create some... I mean, when you read AI, you know you're reading AI very often, so...
Not with Anthropic, you really don't.
Really?
No, I want you to understand what Anthropic did. They left OpenAI. They're not doing videos. They're not doing all this other stuff. It is very... If you know how to work with it, you can have it mimic another person's writing style. It can mimic mine really well. I have to go through a few drafts. Okay? But then it's very hard for people to tell the difference.
AI doesn't replace your creativity, it organizes it. The future belongs to creatives who collaborate with machines. You're not lazy, you're not unfocused, you're not broken, you're wired for depth. Maybe not for pure linear thinking, but that doesn't matter. And that wiring is marketable when you structure it. If you've ever felt like your brain works differently, that might be a good thing. That's where the magic comes from. Folks, thanks for joining. If you want to learn more about Russell, check the link in the description below. Also, check out our podcast for the entire interview where he completely makes a fool of me because he's on a level completely above me. So check that out. Might be fun. Catch you next time.